Welcome to our 30th office hours. And today we have Javi from Goldsky. He's the solutions engineer at Goldsky. So, Goldsky, I definitely know you would have heard about it with the discussions with Zero G. So, they are the crypto data live streaming using subgraphs. And I'm passing it over to Javi to introduce more about himself as well as about Goldsky.
All right, cool. Well, thank you for the introduction. So my name is Javier. I'm originally from Spain, but I live in Portugal now. I've been with the company with Goldsky for over 2 years, and Goldsky has been around for over 4 years, I reckon. So we are a Web3 indexing platform, and we've been working with the Zero G team, so we're pretty excited to get the partnership going, I guess. So I have something to present here. So let me just see if I can figure out the way to do this. Entire
Yeah, it's
screen.
next to your
Oh,
media icon. You will be able to see a screen share one. So, you'll be able to start sharing that.
all right, cool. All right, 1 second. My screen. There we go. Can you guys see my screen?
Yeah, they can see it.
Okay, sweet. All right, cool. So as I was mentioning before, Gold Sky is, to put it simple, is basically Web3 indexing solution. And the way we basically, I guess we were pretty excited about the challenge of being able to index Web3 data, which is by itself quite complex, as you all know. Our approach is a bit different to what you may see with other providers. We have a strong focus on the developer experience, which is kind of like resembled on the features that we have, as well as the level of support we have. And also we take a different approach as well, because we are pretty focused on the ETL side of things. So with ETL, we mean extraction, transformation, and loading of Web3 data. Like we have customers across the entire, I would say, the entire crypto industry, from chains like Immutable, Zora, Stella, all the way up to as well dApps, like for example, high frequency apps, AI apps, gaming apps like Treasure or Proof of Play, etc. And so, the companies I mentioned before has been around for a few years, and most of our team, like 90% of us, we're all engineers. So we are, pretty down into, fixing complex issues around data indexing and data streaming for Web3. I want to talk about a little bit about the problem, right, that we try to solve. And this is something that I'm sure that you will have experienced by now already. The thing with the blockchain itself is that it's a great technology to work with because of all the advantages that it has. But when it comes to reading the data that we put on it, somehow it becomes super challenging, right? And historically, the way that we have been getting that in data from the chain has been by, at the beginning, it was all about making RPC calls to the nodes directly, right? And then we found out that, that's not going to scale, because if you wanted to render a page with 20 NFTs, for example, that would take like 40 calls or something like that. So definitely not that sustainable, because you also need to decode things as they come from the chain. So over time, we've seen that the Web3 indexing industry has been evolving into better technologies. And today we can acknowledge that there is great technologies out there, but they also have their own shortcomings. And so some of you, if you are maybe familiar with, any sort of APIs, like, that can give you a get token API or some sort of get block API, just like an RPC. It's just like the same exact thing, but it helps you a bit. There's also the thing that, database sharing can be difficult. There's also some bespoke indexing solutions out there as well. They can work, but at scale, it's either the problem of build it yourself and own it, or maybe relying on a third party that can do the work for you, right? And in some cases, if you try to own the data layer, you end up actually having to work a lot on having that infrastructure being working and scalable for you. So in our case here with Goldsky, we are aiming to solve these issues. And this is something that, in today's call, because it's a little bit short, I'm not going to be able to show much, but I want to just give you a quick demo on some of the things that we're working on. I guess like we have a strong focus on a few points, which I want to touch over pretty quick. Resiliency is definitely one of them, because of course, like, dApps really rely on data to be available 24/7 all the time. And so we're pretty happy to, to be 100% always up and running. If you go to our page here, you can see that, our systems have been 100% uptime for the last 90 days. Like we have very stable infrastructure because we really care about, you having the best experience, basically. We also kind of take pride on the support that we have. And this is a bit different to maybe other providers, because here, when we partner with a chain like Zero G, it's not only that, we work with them, but much more importantly, we work with the ecosystem, which means that, whenever you may have any issues or have any problems trying to index data from the chain, you can reach out to us directly and, via Telegram, for example, and we'll help you out on a one-on-one basis. We're also pretty fast. For some of you that may be thinking about applications with subsequent latency, or really low latency apps like something around DeFi or maybe gaming, we have a pretty good track record on powering these type of applications via especially Mirror, which is our pipeline solution, but also subgraphs as well. We can also fine tune them in a one-on-one basis. We also can focus on multi-chain because we have our own custom indexers. We can basically ingest anything. It can be off-chain topics, or it can also be any type of chain, whether it's VM or not VM. It can be EVM, it can be Cosmos, it can be Solana, whatever, and you can combine them into the same application. We also have the developer experience that I mentioned earlier. This is reflected on some features, which I'm gonna describe later as I do a little demo. And then, we also have a very strong focus on having everything working together, right? Like we have a few products, but it's not like they are isolated from each other. It's that definitely you can combine them and get the best out of them all together. And with that, you can see that you can, for example, you can combine subgraphs with ETL pipelines. So that way you can get the data into your own database, for example. All right, cool. So there's a few products. I'm not going to be covering all of them here. Today, I just want to give you a quick hint into our subgraphs and mirror solutions. And then for the rest, we can even talk about them in a longer session with more time, I guess. As I mentioned before, great customers that we have today, great partners, but personally very excited into, from Zero G and this partnership as well, because, really focus on AI as well. All right, cool. So let me just give you a quick overview of the platform since we have, 15 minutes. All right, so what you see here is basically Goldsky platform. As I mentioned before, the team is pretty engineering focused, right? So everything that I'm going to be doing here on the dashboard, I can also do on the CLI. We have a CLI tool that allows you to basically do the exact same thing here. But for demo purposes, I think it's better to have a more visual way of describing things. One thing that I really like is subgraphs, right? That you may be familiar with subgraphs today if you are using any other provider. Maybe you have some experience with the graph. Our subgraphs are fully compatible with the graph, but we also add things on top of it, right? And what that means is that if you have any subgraph deployed, you can very easily take the exact same code and deploy them to Goldsky. Like it doesn't make any difference on the code experience. For some of you who may not be that familiar with subgraph development, we also have a pretty cool feature called instant subgraphs. And so what this allows you to do is that you can basically deploy subgraphs without any code, because we will be building the code for you. All we need to know is just a few variables around what you want to index. And so I want to give you a quick example here. So I can, for example, deploy a subgraphs into a token contract within the Zero G network, right? So here you have the Explorer for Galileo. If I go to tokens, I can look into ERC20 tokens. And then here I can, for example, just take the token address. So we just call this USD, what's it? This USDT subgraph. I can say this is the address I'm looking for the network. We have a few networks here. So you want to choose for testing the Galileo. And then you can choose a start block. So for instance, we can take, let's see here, we can take any start block from recently. So let's actually look into this one here. Where are we now in blocks? So this is the height. Currently, we can take, something with the past, just to give it some more data, something like this. And then we just need the ABI. So the ABI is very important for us to index the data, right? So because this is an ERC20 contract. It's either, let's see if it's available in the Explorer. It's not here. We can just basically get any ERC20 ABI, and that will work. So here I can get this ERC20 ABI, and that's all we need, right? So just with these params, the contract address and the start block and the ABI, you can deploy SAPgraph, and we will be doing basically the coding for you. So we'll be able to get the data that we need from the chain. Let's see here. So can reload now. You see that now I have this subgraph being deployed. Now the subgraph will start indexing the data from the token, and then we're going to be able to start using it basically. There's a few very cool features in here where you can create webhooks to the subgraph. You can create private endpoints in case you want to build your application in private and not everyone can access it. There's one or few things I'm working on there which are pretty exciting. But yeah, like we're not going to be able to cover those today, unfortunately. What you see here now that the subgraph is being indexing and there's a bunch of data in it. So if I go to entities, you'll see that there's a huge amount of transfer and approvals in there. And I have this readily API endpoint for me to be able to query transfers in it, right? So I can see here all the transfers and all the information that I want from here. So this way, for example, you can build, let's say, you can build basically this UI here for a block explorer. So that's one thing that I want to show you quickly. This is our subgraphs, and you may be familiar with subgraphs because they have been around for a while. There's many optimizations that we do for subgraphs. In terms of the developer experience, for the one that you saw here, but also other cool features. Something that I'm more kind of like even interested in showing you guys is our pipeline solution. And think about pipelines to be like the next evolution of indexing. Subgraphs are great because, as you see here, you can very easily index data, and then you have that readily usable API endpoint for you to query the data. In some cases, you may want to have the data in your own database so that so that way you can own the data, you can transform the data as you want, you can collocate it with other parts of your stack application, whatever you like really. So in order to deploy these pipelines, which is mirror pipelines, is actually very simple as well. We have ingested zero-G data. So if you look at the network here, you can see that we have a bunch of different versions of testnets, by the way, because we recently deployed the network. So from here, I'll show you. Basically, we have Roblox, Rologs, and rich transactions. And later in the week, next week, we want to be able to have even more data. Like, for example, we will be able to have data sets on ERC20 transfers, ERC71 transfers, and any type of ERC transfers, basically. So we can take as the source of the pipeline Roblox in this example, and we can basically pipe this data into our own database. In between, we can also do transformations if you want. So, for example, I can filter the shape of the data. I can also call a third-party endpoint to enrich the data with off-chain information. For example, if you are dealing with token prices, then you can enrich that data of transfers with external calls to an API. You can pretty much do anything that you like, really, as well as you can also do ETH calls if you want to fully replicate what a subgraph experience will be. For syncs, we can basically sync the information into different types of databases based on, pretty much based on your use case. So if you want to, for example, do analytics, then you can sync the data into ClickHouse. If you want to sync the data into a third-party endpoint, you can also do that. You can also put it into AWS, whatever. In some cases, you may prefer not to own the database, but instead we can also provide you with a fully provisioned database. So in this case, you can create a database with Goldsky, and we give you access to it, and then you can just sync the data into it. So in this example, I already have some databases configured, and so I can, for instance, for example, sync the data here in this hosted Postgres DB from Goldsky. And I can call these, say, zero-G blocks. The pipeline will make sure to create the actual information that's necessary in it. So I can call this pipeline zero-G blocks pipe, for example, or blocks demo. This is pretty much it. From this point onward, what I can do here is that I can deploy the pipeline and I can assign the corresponding resources onto it. And so the reason why this is important is pipelines can scale horizontally. unlike subgraphs. Like with the problem with subgraphs is that they work sequentially. They go block by block, indexing the data. And if you have a huge subgraph and the network is pretty fast, then it's going to be very difficult for the subgraph to be able to keep up to edge. You cannot scale subgraphs horizontally, but you can scale pipelines horizontally. So you can have one worker here, or you can have even 40 workers here. And so this is the amount of compute that you can put into it. If you want to have sub-second latency applications, you are much better off working with pipelines in this case. If you want to do huge backfills of data, for example, then you can put XXL, because that's going to add many more workers to ingest all the information that's needed. So for this example here, I'm just going to do small and then basically now on the back end, what's going to happen is that we're going to be creating the corresponding data sets, the corresponding resources in order for these pipelines to work and be streaming the data into the corresponding DB, which in this case is going to be hosted by us. But in some of the cases, you may just want to own the data and have your own DB and build your own application, basically, or API on top of it. So that's pretty much it. I could probably wait a little bit. You see here that now this is starting. If I look into the logs, I would see that eventually the pipeline will create the table, and then we want to be able to see the data in it. So I guess while this thing is loading, I don't have any visibility into the Discord from this view, but I'll be curious to know if there is any questions maybe from the audience or any comments that I can address.
Sure, Javi. Guys, if you have any questions, please do drop on the chat box. So we dedicate last 4 to 5 minutes for the AMA session. So maybe if you want, you can conclude in the meantime, and we can have our audience post it on Discord chat. Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. Going to show you here. I have the access to the DB. So let's see. Here you can actually see the table that was created here before, 0G blocks, and I can do select all around 0G blocks. And this is gonna give me the data that is already been in there, basically. Actually, curious to know. I guess I will just stop with the demo here. Let me see if I can stop sharing. I think overall, I like to do demos with a lot more time because I can really dive deep into the details and answer questions. But I know this was a short demo, but hopefully this gives you a good overview of what we do and why we are a bit different to the rest of the indexer solutions out there, basically. Let me just look at the chat in case something comes up. Let me see here.
There isn't much questions right now. Guys, if you have any questions, please do drop on the chat. So we heard that Goldsky offers indexing through subgraphs, and it's super cool with the mirror pipelines. Glad to hear that as well.
Can you repeat that?
No, they were interested with the mirror pipelines, so that's what they shared it. It looks super cool.
Oh yeah, thanks. Yeah, I feel honestly, I'd be very curious, guys, if you give it a try. There's many real time. I'll give you an example. Polymarket, right? We power Polymarket via pipelines, for example, so the benefit with pipelines is not only the fact that they can scale all the way up to infinite, I would say, is that there is also a lot of properties to this ETL system, like for example, at least once warranty of the data, in order mode, etc. That gives you much more resilience on the app level. I saw a question here, by the way, which is more important for you project, fast data access or deep analytics? Can both be achieved with Goldsky and OG? Yeah, 0G. Definitely both. For example, for deep analytics, one of the things that we do with chains, for example, with Optimism, is that whenever a new chain comes in, we ingest the chain and we create pipelines for that new OP stack chain, and we send them over to their analytics team so they can have full visibility into what's happening on the network. For other chain use cases, what we do is that with that data, they are able to power their own rewards and incentive systems because they have full visibility into which applications are driving the most activity within the network. So you can basically take the whole data and just putting it into whatever DB you like, and you can just do analytics on top of it.
Yes, and one last thing is which is more important for your project, fast data access or deep analytics? Can both be achieved with 0G and Goldsky?
So this is what I was meaning before. I guess this will depend on what you guys are building. It's really up to the mechanics of it. It will be the same, right? It will be these ETL pipelines into your DB and into the DB of choice based on your use case. from that point onwards, you own the data and you can do whatever. You can build APIs on top, or whatever you like to do. It really depends on what you're building, I would say. But yeah, but definitely possible with the combination of zero G and Gold Sky for sure.
Thank you, Jerry. And yes, that's pretty much it. So before we see any other question coming in, like where do you see the roadmap on the upcoming days that you are partnering with Zero G, and like how is the journey been so far? Do you have any suggestions for our community, or how do you want our community members to get involved with the development of Gold Sky?
Got it. Yeah, the great question. So with Gold Sky, you can very easily get into goldsky.com, and you can create an account, and it will be free. You can deploy 3 SAP grabs and 1 pipeline for free without you having to put a credit card. So I would just encourage anyone to give it a try and see how this can fit their use cases. And if they see a fit, then they can easily reach out to us, and then we can have a chat to help them integrate with their dApp. Now, in terms of our partnership, I'm very excited about how things are developing, and yeah, like I'm really hoping that we can make use of pipelines and SAP grabs a lot more within the ecosystem to, for example, as I mentioned before, maybe consider incentivizing dApps via providing the right analytics, for example. I think there's many opportunities that we can explore in the long term.
Thank you so much, Javi. That really sounds good. And yes, I think that's pretty much it from our community side. So thank you so much for your time, Javi. And we really appreciate your presence here. And we look forward to build more collaborative partnerships in the upcoming days.
For
So
sure,
thank you,
yeah.
everyone, and hope it will be really beneficial for you as well. And yes, please go ahead, Javi.
Yeah, exciting times, and thank you all for having me here. Super exciting for Zero G personally. I'm super into AI, so this is one of the best chains ever. Thank you all.
Glad to hear that, Javi. Thank you so much for joining us. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in. And looking forward to see you on the next 39th office hours on Friday next week. Thank you, everyone. See you. Thank you, Jan, for hosting us. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, everyone.